This is Sunny, and this is what I drew from the prompts he chose. In this video, my cat is going to decide what I draw. There will be 3 different rounds with items to choose from. Let's get started with round 1, the topic. I wrote the topics on cards. The topics are human, animal, landscape/nature, and food. I laid out the cards and I'm placing a treat on each one. The first one that Sunny eats will be the one that I will choose. I actually tried multiple times to get Sunny to choose one properly because it kept getting messed up. So here's the best and final attempt. And he chose landscape/nature for the topic. I don't usually draw landscapes, so I'll be excited to see where this goes. Next is the style of art. We have realistic/semi-realistic, cartoon/illustration, and abstract. I really want him to choose semi-realistic/realistic. And Sunny chose a cartoon/illustration style. So now we have a cartoon landscape. This is something I've never done before, but we still have one more round to complete, the art medium. I'm using a paintbrush to represent watercolor, a pencil for charcoal/graphite, and a color pencil to represent color pencil, of course. I'm going to toss these in Sunny's direction and see which one he touches first. I really want to work with a colored medium. Sunny chose watercolor. These are really good prompts. Now let's get started on the artwork. Okay, I have all my watercolor materials ready. Right now I'm sketching in my landscape. So Sunny chose the topic of landscape/nature and a cartoon illustration style. I've never drawn a landscape in an illustration style before, so this will be interesting to try out. I like trying new things in my artwork. Since I've never drawn this before, I went online and looked up some pictures of landscape illustrations for inspiration. Here's the sketch I used to plan out my colors. I'll be using this as a reference in my painting. I also pre-mixed my watercolor so that I can save some time. I'm painting a sunset starting with purple at the top and blending it out. I decided to draw some mountains above a lake. I'm glad that Sunny chose watercolor because watercolor is starting to become my favorite art medium. It's really relaxing to paint with watercolors, and it's faster than pencil or graphite. Since it's faster, it also means that this video will be easier to edit, so that's good. You don't really have as much control with watercolors like drawing with pencil. You kind of have to just let the paint flow and take its own course. That's why I like working with watercolors, because you never really know how the painting will exactly turn out. Sunny chose an illustration style for this drawing, but on my channel I always draw in an illustration style. Maybe next time I'll do a different style. On the plus side, illustration style takes less time and is really fun to do. I'm using blue, purple, and red colors and blending them together. I left some space in the sky for clouds. I also occasionally used a paper towel to lift up some of the paint. I used a darker red paint near the mountains. Now I'm starting on the foreground. I'm painting the grass on the left side. This is going to be a cliff overlooking the lake. On the right side, I drew another piece of land. This is the land bordering the lake. Since this is a cartoon/illustration style, I won't be making things realistic. I'm using fantasy colors that you won't see in real life. I'll be sticking to pink, purple, and blue colors throughout the whole painting. As you can see, I started painting the mountains, but I should have waited for the sky to dry first. With watercolors, you have to be patient and wait for layers to dry. As you can see, the edges of the mountains became fuzzy where it meets the sky. This is because I wasn't patient enough to wait for it to dry, so the wet paint bled into each other. I'm using a paper towel to create a white cap and highlights on the mountains. After the paint was dried, I added some shadows on the cliff. This will add more dimension to it. On the right side, I'm painting a simple triangle-shaped tree. Now I'm using a hairdryer. This will speed up the process of drawing so that I can work on the next layer right away. I'm darkening up the mountains with some dark blue. To make it look like the mountains have depth, I made the mountains in the front darker, and the mountains get lighter as it goes further into the background. Now I'm painting the water. I wanted to use the same color as the sky and mountains so that it looks like a reflection. I found that a flat brush is very helpful for painting the water because it can create thin or thick lines. I left highlights in the water and the place where the mountains meet the lake. I kept applying more colors like blue, pink, and purple on top of each other. Since the paint was wet, the paint blended in together naturally and created a multicolor effect. I just continued this all the way down the page. adding in another tree. I wanted it to have some leaves poking out, but I ended up removing that later. Now I'm shading in the cliff to make it look more like a cliff. I added a darker pink color for the grass. I think I should have finished painting the land before I painted the tree, because the trees got messed up after I added wet paint next to it. Watercolor painting is all about working in layers, and if you don't layer properly, then you can mess up the previous layer. Next time I'll wait for it to dry before putting on the next layer of details and trees. I'm still learning about watercolor, and layering is one of the things I still have to learn about. In the background, I'm adding some little trees with some dark blue. I painted the trees in a triangle-like shape. I also did another video where Sunny chose my phone case design. It was really fun, so I wanted to do another video with Sunny, which led me to this video. Make sure to check out that other video. I added a purple shadow on the side of the mountain. Again, I didn't layer properly, so the purple bled into the trees. I used a paper towel to lighten up the land. Now I'm sharpening up the trees in the foreground. I made it a simple triangle shape to make it look cartoony. Now I'm working on the water to make it look nicer. When I put the wet paint on top of the dry paint, sometimes it leaves a harsh line where the paint ended. That's what happened to the water, but it's not too noticeable. To prevent this, next time I will spread a thin layer of water over the whole surface so that there won't be any harsh lines when it dries. I'm lightly coloring in the highlights but making sure that it's still showing. I'm using a paper towel to brighten up the highlights and lift some of the paint off. I'm shading the land for some contrast by making the edges darker. I added a little blue tip to the cliff and blended it out. Next, I'm darkening and defining the trees in the background. I used a dark blue paint. I make many different types of art videos, but I want your opinion on which videos you like the most. Comment down below if you prefer tutorial videos or art challenge videos like this one. I tried painting another tree, but I ended up removing it later because I didn't like it. Now I'm fixing up some of the mountains and adding some more color so that it won't look too flat. Now I'm fixing up the sky a little bit. I added some more colors to it and made it look brighter and more saturated. I dried the painting off camera with a hairdryer. Sadly, I got the harsh lines in the sky where the paint dried. At least next time I'll know how to prevent it. I outlined the mountains with a purple colored paint, which makes it look more cartoony. Now I'm just adding some purple paint to darken up the trees. In the sky, I painted two little seagulls with red paint. I added these so that the sky wouldn't look too empty. I wanted the clouds to stand out a bit more, so I'm outlining the clouds with a darker colored paint. I used the same color paint as the sky to outline the clouds. So I used a bluish purple paint for the top clouds and used a red paint to outline the bottom clouds. Using the same color outline makes it look more like it belongs in the sky. I think the outline really helped to make it look more like a cartoon style, which is what I'm going for. The lake looks kind of blurry because of the paint I added on the previous layer, so I'm going back in with some more saturated colors. I just added streaks of color on top of the water here and there to make it look more dimensional. I'm also painting a darker edge on the land to define it more. The trees weren't sharp enough for my liking, so I'm using a color pencil to outline them. I know that Sunny chose watercolor for my art medium, but I'm only going to use a tiny bit of color pencil, so it's okay. On the water, I'm using a white gel pen to add some highlights. My gel pen is not very opaque, so I have to layer it multiple times to get a bright white. White gel pens are very useful for drawing thin highlights because brushes are way too big to paint highlights. Now I'm adding a few stars in the sky with a white gel pen. To finish it off, I'm drawing a crescent moon in the center of the sky. My white gel pen isn't very opaque, but it worked out perfectly for this moon because it made it look translucent and not too bright. And here's the final illustration style landscape painting. Comment down below what you would name this piece. It was super fun to do this challenge and I really enjoyed painting this. I'm happy with how it turned out, but I learned a lot about painting with watercolors today, so I think I could make this better if I painted this again. Please give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more art videos. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.